welcome to another edition of The Final Bell, a national sports discussion show where we tackle the hottest topics in all of sports. I'm your host, Femi Bebefe, and to my right, Kylie Wade, to my left, Corey Colwell. How are the both of you doing this evening?
A-okay, Mr. Bebefe.
Kylie?
Very good, very good.
That's excellent. You know, I mean, I'm doing pretty good here. I got my green on since it's Money March. Free agency, we're going down. People are getting paid, and let's get into it. Let's go right to homes. Percy Harvin now has been traded from the Vikings to the Seattle Seahawks, giving them that dynamic outside threat that they kind of were missing last season. So what I want to know, are the Seattle Seahawks now the favorite to make the Super Bowl from the NFC? Kylie?
Absolutely. You have to be so impressed with what Pete Carroll and John Schneider have done with this team in the time that they've been here. Pete Carroll came into the NFL and he knew exactly the kind of team he wanted to build, and he went out and built it. And now we're finally starting to see what that looks like, and it's pretty scary. Russell Wilson and the read option are creating headaches for defenses already. And you add Percy Harvin, it's just going to complicate matters so much. You can stop the read option if you mess around with your secondary a little bit, bring the safety up and help out. Well, good luck with Percy Harvin and one-on-one coverage on the outside with no safety help. That's going to be a mess. Defenses are going to have to pick their poison. It makes that offense more dynamic. The defense should be just as strong as ever. They're returning almost everybody. This team is dangerous.
Got to quote my friend Aziz Ansari, like it, love it, and got to have it. I love that they got Percy Harvin. I feel there's a steal getting him from the Vikings. But my one concern is that there must be more to the Percy Harvin situation for the Vikings to give up on him so young. And drafting him so high in the draft and so talented. I mean, if everything plays out correctly, I think it's a great move. But at Pete Carroll, he can find these people. He found Marshawn Lynch. He saved him from Buffalo. Marshawn Lynch had similar character problems as Percy Harvin, but he's gotten through them. Got paid, worked through it too. So I feel it's a good move.
Yeah, and you talked a little bit about the risk, and for a guy, Percy Harvin, he's had migraine issues. He hasn't been the most locker room friendly guy. The Seahawks did give up their first round selection in this year's draft. Are you okay with the risk that they're taking? Because it is a little bit of a risk.
I mean, for the talent you're getting, I mean, do you think you can get a talent at that quality at 25? Probably not. Even for was it a first,
a seventh, and then a mid round next year. Yeah.
That's totally worth it. Because I mean, the later rounds, you're just kind of chancing to see, based on the people who are there, by the quality of their working ability, their brain power on the field and stuff like that. I mean, getting Percy Harvin's talent for just a first, a seventh, and a mid-round pick next year, that's a steal.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that for what they were going to get at the draft, he is a steal. And the risks, they're there, but they don't scare me as much with the Seahawks for exactly what you're saying about Lynch. An injury concern as well. Pete Carroll has that really next man up idea. You saw when Brandon Browner went out, they carried on like nothing happened, you know. They are a good team for the unique issues that Harvin has, because I think Pete Carroll has equipped this team to deal with them.
So both of you guys feel that they are the favorites. Overlooking the 49ers, there's Green Bay, Atlanta, Giants, when they're playing their A game, they're as good as can be. You believe that they're better than all those teams?
I mean, the Giants, they're never consistent. I mean, they're on one year, they're off the other. We can obviously hope that they're not going to be on again this season.
Next year might be the on year.
The combination of Marshawn Lynch, Russell Wilson, and Percy Harvin, I think, is the most dynamic trio in the NFC and probably all of football. I think the NFC compared to the AFC is pretty easy, but I think a Super Bowl of the Patriots or I think the Ravens, but I don't know if they're going to back there. But I think a matchup like that, I think, would be very beneficial for the Seahawks.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you guys are happy that Lamborghini Percy has now arrived to Seattle. So we'll see how it plays out for the Seahawks, but they definitely are one of the major contenders. Speaking about another contender now in the AFC, the Denver Broncos have stolen Wes Welker from the New England Patriots, Tom Brady's favorite target. So what I want to know, I'm not really the Denver side, I want to know from the New England side, did they make a mistake in not re-signing Wes Welker? Corey?
I'm kind of in the middle. I think one fact that Tom Brady loves Wes Welker, that I think that's the whole reason he took a pay cut, is so they can make a play at Wes Welker. I think
he took less money and
it confuses me beyond belief. I think either that they didn't want to offer him the years he wanted. I think they didn't want to offer him the amount of money he wanted, but then I think it was kind of just an FU to the Patriots with him signing to the Broncos for 2 years, probably where they wanted him for that range, and for $6 million a season. And they just signed Danny Amendola for 5 years for the same amount of money, $60 million per season. It's confusing, but It is what it is, I guess.
If it was any other team but the Patriots, I'd say it was a mistake because it's like, where are you going to get that? But Bill Belichick finds a way. You know, you hear a lot with players coming out of New England. It's like, oh, are they that good or is it the scheme? You hear that for a reason. He has some pretty good schemes, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like he's a master at looking at what he has to go against, and finding a way to win. So he's going to bring in Amendola, and all right, it is very strange. It seems like there may have been some personal things going on underneath it, obviously, but I think Belichick will find a way.
Yeah, I think it bodes more on the personal side. There's had to be something dating back to last summer in the September when Welker felt like he was being phased out of the offense and stuff like that. But really quickly here, are the Denver Broncos the team to beat in the AFC?
I mean, I guess not really. I think it's still Patriots and Colts. I don't think it, or not the Colts, the Broncos.
I was like, you're going back to 04.
Memory lane here. I think it's the Broncos and Patriots for sure. I think everyone else is still below them, but I wouldn't declare one over the other.
Okay.
Yeah, I completely agree. Between those two, either one's the team to beat.
Moving on to a team that was the team to beat, or should be the team to beat this upcoming season, the Baltimore Ravens. They have been hemorrhaging a lot of talent this free agency. They've lost a number of guys, Paul Kruger, Daniel Ellerbe. They cut Bernard Pollard. They signed Joe Flacco to that monster contract, but, I mean, that's about it, is what they've been able to do. So what I want to know is, can the Baltimore Ravens, or will the Baltimore Ravens, the defending Super Bowl champions, make the playoffs?
This seems so crazy to say, but I'd say no. I mean, they're bleeding bad right now. Even if nothing else had happened and they just lost Ray Lewis, that's a huge identity loss.
That was a huge loss, yeah.
He's been a Baltimore Raven since the Ravens were the Baltimore Ravens, you know? Like, he's been the identity of that team. So if you lost him, that'd be a huge thing to overfill. Okay, well, your leading receiver's gone too, and your leading tackler, and your center retired, and you lost all of your linebackers. Kruger and Ellerbe are out too. This team's going to look completely different, and I think that we can agree that they got to the Super Bowl on emotion. That emotion has probably deflated. The talent has depleted. They don't play in a cakewalk division. It's going to be really tough for them.
Yeah, they're back down to earth.
I agree with Kylie. I think, but I want to point out, I would not lose complete faith in the Ravens just because Ozzie Newsome is one of the best GMs in the league. I would kind of want to reevaluate where they are now after the draft and see what kind of deals and what kind of picks he has there. But I am kind of worried, like Kylie was, about where they are talent-wise. And this is kind of just the reaction to signing Joe Flacco to that huge contract. I think quarterbacks are overpaid just to be average or above average, and I think Joe Flacco is an example of that. I think redistributing the money that he earned now, I think would have been better to get rid of him and keep the team like more or less collected together.
Get rid of Flacco.
Yeah.
I mean that
quarterbacks are easy to come by apparently now.
Wilson came in.
Colin Kaepernick,
that is a bold move. But I mean, you know, like Kylie was saying, they're losing Ellerbe. They're losing obviously Ray Lewis to retirement. Kruger, only Terrell Suggs is coming back in the linebacking core. Bernard Pollard's gone. Ed Reed could be gone. He's visiting with Houston. You could be talking about losing 3/4 of your linebackers. You're both your safeties. I mean, it's going to be, like you said, a totally different defense.
Unless you view Joe Flacco as the face of your franchise, the one important piece to winning a championship, which he is at the quarterback position, it's the right move to make, is to let everyone else go and bank on Joe Flacco. But I don't see him that way. I feel it's better to keep the team talent, like the defense together. I feel Paul Kruger and Ellerbe, I think, are more important to the team than Joe Flacco. I think the Ravens have the mentality of a hard defense, and their offense for so long got by with just like an average quarterback there. I think if they truly wanted to keep the team together and be competent on like at least one side of the ball, I think that would have been the choice to do.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how it plays out for them, but they do have their work cut out, especially with the draft coming up. That leads us to our first break. But before we go to break, we want to know from you guys, are the Seattle Seahawks the favorites to go to the Super Bowl in the NFC? We'll be back with the final bell.
I'm going to say no, because if you think about it, the San Francisco 49ers went to the Super Bowl, and just because we got one good player in free agency so far doesn't mean that we're going to. And I know Seattle fans are going to hate me for saying it, but I think San Francisco has a better chance to repeat because they haven't really lost anyone that significant yet.
I think so. With the addition of Percy Harvin and just what we're going to do in the draft, I think the Seahawks are definitely contenders, if not the dominators of the NFC West. Go Hawks.
Welcome back to the Final Bell, where we continue to discuss the hottest topics in sport. Let's shift gears a little bit. We started off with some free agency talk, but let's now go to NBA. The Miami Heat have been dominating of late. They have the win streak going, and they look like they're just heading above the rest of the NBA. So what I want to know, with the recent play, are the Miami Heat the best team in all of sports? Corey?
They in all of sports, I would say they're top 3. I think the Blackhawks were playing at a better level than the Heat were in their 22 point game streak. But I think the Heat are head and shoulders above anyone else in the NBA right now. I think Dwayne Wade and LeBron just pounding it, driving to the hoop, dishing it out. I think they can't stop anyone, or they can't be stopped because Ray Allen will hit the 3, Shane Battier will hit the 3, Chalmers will hit the 3, and you have people in the paint.
Chris Bosh.
Yeah, Chris Bosh in the paint, and occasionally he'll like peek his head over and kind of score some points. But I think they are probably the most talented team in at least 3 of the 4 major sports.
Yeah, I mean, they're absolutely dominating right now. And I know that you don't want to look at all of history, but to me, if I'm going to declare you the best team in sports, I do want to know that this isn't a one-year fluke or anything like that. So I rolled it back a decade. Let's start in 2003, okay? Look at the Heat since then. They've made the playoffs every year except one, in 2007, 2008. They won the finals twice and had another finals appearance. If we look at other sports, you just don't see that level of consistency. Only one team's won the World Series more than once in that span. That's the Red Sox, but they've made the playoffs since 2009. That's the best. No one's won the Stanley Cup more than once in that time. And if we look in the NFL, the Patriots have won 2 Super Bowls back in 2003 and 2004. They've also made the playoffs every year except 2008. And they do have some recent Super Bowl appearances. So then I was kind of like, well, it's tough between the Patriots and the Heat for the most dominant over a recent span. But I think exactly what you're saying about the Heat's dominance lately, the way they're dominating, the way they're finding different ways to win games. They're beating tough opponents and they're getting up for different kinds of games. I think they are the best team in sports.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the way that they're playing. It's really unmatched. I mean, but you can look at, maybe a team like going off grid, like maybe a Barcelona. You know, maybe in
soccer,
Champions, right? Hey, I know a little bit about soccer.
Right.
They do have the best player in the world. You know, maybe if you want to talk, that's probably the only team that comes to mind, in my opinion, you could be able to maybe match them up head to head. Who's better, Barcelona or the Miami Heat? But I mean, NFL, I feel like there's just too much parity to be able to match someone.
I would say there's more parity in hockey actually, because like Kylie said,
there is a lot of parity in hockey.
So many different teams winning the Stanley Cup each year.
The 8th seed won it last year with the LA Kings. You know, so the parity in hockey is unbelievable. But yeah, so your best team is probably going to come from the NBA because they're able to hold on to their stars and
the cap structure too, with the soft cap and the hard cap.
Exactly. But moving on to a team that wants to be on that level but is not right now. The Seattle Mariners in spring training have been playing lights out baseball. So, I mean, it is only spring training, but for Mariners fans, they're hoping that this can go and propel them through opening day. So what I want to know, are the Mariners a legit contender in the AL West? Kylie?
You know, being a sports fan in the Pacific Northwest requires optimism. It's a good trait to have. But there is not a fan base that is optimistic on the level of the Mariners fans. It's every year. They get so excited. And I love it. I love that they do that. And you know what? There's reason to get excited this year. Things look good. Spring training's been going really well.
Sorry.
However, it's spring training. I mean, you have to do something consistently in the regular season to be a contender of any sorts. They've been last in the AL in scoring for 4 years in a row. You really are not going to contend for much if you can't fix that. And maybe they can. They've been hitting really well in spring training, but we need to see them do it in a real game.
Being a Mariners fan is like being in an abusive relationship. It's just like,
you keep coming back for more.
Like, baby, I won't leave you. I love you, Seattle. I love you, Mariners. But I think Kylie is totally correct. I think I have cautious optimism about the Mariners succeeding this year, just based on the fact that their offense doesn't need to be that much better. I think if they even are middle of the pack offense, because they were middle of the pack out of Safeco, moving the walls into Safeco helps, and then like we had unusually cold weather last season too, so that kind of sinks the ball down at home too. and the defense will always be. I think they were ranked number 1. I think in overall defensive efficiency last season. So I think the Mariners, if just like the Orioles last season, if everything goes correct and goes okay,
The stars align.
stars align. Well, like I was watching the Mariners commercials earlier. You rub the lamp. Raul Ibanez comes out and like, you guys are gonna win the World Series this year.
Yeah, I mean, if the stars align, maybe they can make a run. But I mean, with Texas there,
It's so
not
competitive.
Anaheim, Los Angeles, you know, it's
The Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim.
who knows where they came up with that. And even Oakland, the defending division champs, you know, so it's going to be tough for the Mariners. But, I mean, right now, so far, so good. You know, they're doing work down there in Arizona.
I think they're gonna third. Yeah, third. We're up at the bottom. Expectation set there.
Yeah, we'll see how they can do it. But moving on to March Madness will be beginning next week. So, you know, we got to talk the madness. You know, conference tournaments are this week. The NCAA tournament's next week. I want to know who will win the entire thing. Who's winning the national championship? Corey, I mean, you're already laughing, so I know you got something good.
I was talking about last week. We got the Butler Bulldogs.
Going with the underdog.
Underdog. It's tournament time. Butler strives. It's achieved very highly in the tournament. I mean, like I said last week, they kind of play at the level of the good teams and then also sink to the low lows of the bad teams. But they always are very consistent during the tournament. Like when the coach came there, Brad
Stevens.
Brad
Yeah.
Stevens came there. He just uses statistics, good rebounding, and good defense to make sure the Bulldogs play well. They took out Cody Zeller against Indiana, who is a far superior team with good defense, good interior defense, and good rebounding. So I feel it's entirely possible that they could do it.
Kylie?
It's hilarious that you say that. I was gonna go with Indiana.
Oh,
Direct comp. Maybe that'll be the national championship game.
Maybe, and then we'll have to watch that.
I think the whole state of Indiana would explode if that was a national
Yeah.
championship game.
I love the underdog, okay? But I also love Victor Oladipo. I mean, he's insane. His defensive effort, offensive consistency, the energy that he brings to that team. I think my team has a shot.
I'm going to say the victors rewrite history, so
Uh-huh.
Butler will rewrite it as they're the top dog.
You know, it's going to be a great tournament. Everyone's bracket will be busted after the first weekend. I think that's the only guarantee that I'm going to make. You know, because
You don't have any favorites you want to put out there?
I mean, I thought maybe Indiana, but I've seen them also lose to teams like Minnesota and, you know, like Butler, they're good, but they've lost to other bad teams. You know, everyone has a handful of bad losses. So it's really tough to see
Way
who's
to play the middle of the road there, Femi.
so, you know, I'm going to take the field. That's what I'm going to do. But moving on to our free agent quick hits, I want to know, give me about 3 words or less, what you guys think of these free agent signings. Reggie Bush to the Lions. I don't care who goes first.
I love Reggie.
Okay?
I love it too.
Deshaun Goldston to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Eh,
A collective
we're on the same wavelength for this one.
Paul Kruger to the rival Cleveland Browns.
I like it. I think Kyle's going to say he's probably overvalued.
I
We're on
think
the
he's
same wavelength right
overrated.
now.
So you're going the overrated route?
But I think for the Browns are trying to do a 3-4 defense. I think he'll fit in perfectly for that. But I kind of do agree that he was overpaid.
Yeah, $8 million a year. He's definitely getting paid. Recently, Rashard Mendenhall to the Arizona Cardinals.
Cardinals, who cares?
Seriously, it doesn't excite me.
They need a quarterback.
Exactly.
Donnell Ellerbe to the Miami Dolphins.
I just feel bad for the Ravens.
Yeah, me too. They're
Getting
getting
cherry
rolled.
picked by everybody.
With that said, that's how you guys feel about free agency. We're going to go to break here. But before we go to break, we want to know, are the Miami Heat the best team in all of sports? We'll be back with the final bell.
I don't know too much about basketball. Haven't been watching the sports circuit too much. Don't have ESPN at home. But in all of sports, I think that's a stretch. We'll just have to see how they continue playing.
My instinct is no.
They're putting up a strong season. They've got a lot of the powerhouse players, a lot of the all-stars, and so we'll see how it goes. I mean, they do play really well. I don't know much in the realms of other sports like hockey or actually football. I don't know much about football, not much as I do about basketball anyway. But Yeah, from what I've seen, they're rocking.
One of their biggest competition, the Lakers, have a poor performance all around, so they haven't had the best competition either.
Oh, that's a tough one. I'd either say Mariners and Angels or Cavaliers and Mavericks, definitely.
I think Boston versus the New York Yankees is definitely one of the biggest rivalries, but I think as we're seeing right now, the 49ers-Seahawks rivalry continues to intensify, and I think it's going to get even more intense this next season.
Yankees-Red Sox obviously is the best rivalry in sports because of its history, but I'm going to say Steelers-Ravens because the fans get ratchet.
Good to hear from the voice of the people, as they were very opinionated when it came to the rivalries that we have in sport. So I want to know from you guys, since you guys are the experts, which rivalry is the best rivalry in all of sports? Kylie?
There's so many great rivalries. That's what's so fantastic about sports. But if you had to go all time, I don't know how you don't go Yankees-Red Sox. There's so much history. The first time those two teams played was 1901.
Jeez.
That is, there's so many great storylines that have come out of it. The Curse of the Bambino, the Red Sox 2004 World Series run,
Bloody sock.
the Bloody
Yeah.
Sox. So much history.
Aaron Boone.
Exactly.
Oh.
Bucky Dent. Yeah, it goes on and on.
Every time they play, there's storylines, regardless of where each of them is at in the season. It's a media hoopla every time. Fans are so passionate. I think it's the best one.
I'm going to pull it out of left field. We're talking about baseball, but I'm going to say Rafael Nadal and Roger Federer.
Wow, okay.
Thinking about this, I thought about
I
it.
like that, okay.
I like that too.
They are probably the two most dominant tennis players in the last 25 years. Roger Federer won the slam circuit. Nadal has done the same thing too. I think actually he's one short, but they whenever they play together, it's always ESPN. Even ESPN cares about it more so than like Tim Tebow or Skip Bayless focuses on Roger Federer.
And that's pretty hard for them to
But,
cover
yeah.
more than Tim Tebow.
A game that even rivals the Red Sox-Yankees games in length. That everyone watches Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal play. They're always either the best matches, very, very close. They are probably really good rivals, even though they seem to like each other. But it's up there for me because I'm a big tennis fan. When I hear Nadal, Federer,
it's pretty much must see.
Yeah,
It really
must see
is.
TV, even if it's on at like 3 o'clock in the
Yeah,
morning.
right. 4 in the morning, or 6 in the
Not
morning,
kidding.
Wimbledon
Like,
final.
Hey, Mom, I can't go to school today.
Yeah, right. Or wake me up for the tennis match. No, I mean those are both really good rivalries. You know, I think one of my favorites is Duke, North Carolina.
Yeah.
Whenever that's on, I gotta see. I mean, it was a little off this year because North Carolina is not having their best year, or the most proud year. But whenever those two schools are at the top of their game, Tobacco Road is pretty much on fire. Everyone is Duke, North Carolina. People would camp out for days for those tickets. You know, so it's wild. But I mean, you guys, what are you guys' second best rivalries?
My most recent one, I would say, is actually the Portland Timbers and the Sounders. The rejuvenating
Battle of I-5,
rivalry. Man, like being a Sounders fan, like you mark your calendar for when the Timbers come to Seattle or when the Sounders go to Portland. The quality of both teams has never been on par. The Sounders have always been more dominant, even though they kind of like Butler, they kind of sink to the level of the Timbers and lose to them or tie them. But it's such a good atmosphere at the games. My first Sounders game was actually a Portland Timbers game.
Oh wow!
So seeing everyone just go crazy, and just like saying the most ridiculous things about Timber players or just the Timbers in general, it's one of the best experiences at a stadium I've ever had.
My number 2 is what you said. Definitely.
Yeah,
I was considering that as the top one, even.
Yeah, it's rivalries are what make sports. Unfortunately, I mean, it feels like in the NBA, NFL, we're not getting those classic rivalries. I mean, free agency kind of doesn't allow that anymore. So, but I mean, college is where you look for college sports, or baseball is just of a sheer time, and tennis and golf. I mean, golf. Tiger Woods doesn't really have I mean, you could say maybe Mickelson, but I mean, he's on another level than Phil Mickelson. I mean, not recently, but if you look at things over the course of time when they've both been in the PGAs. But Moving along, Anquan Bolden, shockingly, was traded to the San Francisco 49ers for a sixth-round pick. Sixth round pick. Excuse me. Freudian slip, sixth-round pick.
Think about the 49ers.
Yeah. I was thinking about the Harbaughs, and then that's what triggered it.
49ers.
But the brother-to-brother trade Anquan Bolden did in San Francisco. I want to know, how much does Anquan Bolden have left in the tank, as I barely get this question out, Corey?
I'm going to do a Femi transition here. I'm going to say, speaking of rivalries, Seahawks 49ers. Seahawks trade for Percy Harvin. 3 hours later, the 49ers trade for Anquan Bolden. I personally think Anquan Bolden is like kind of on F. He's kind of running out of gas. He's kind of fluttering there. But I love that rivalry. I should have said that instead of the Sounders.
It's a recent rivalry in its
yeah.
infant stages.
Yeah, I think that Bolden brings a presence that Crabtree also has, just a physicality that the Seattle corners have. They're both very large corners. They're both very physical corners. Match them against two very physical, very tall receivers. It'll be a great game to watch. And the Seahawks and the 49ers, I think, are basically twin teams.
Yes, they
Both
are.
rely on their defenses a lot. Both have very young and capable quarterbacks. Both have very good running games. It's probably the new
Steelers,
rivalry,
Ravens, yeah.
I wouldn't say Steelers Ravens, but say Pats Colts. But I was
be.
disparaged on Twitter about that. So
No, I completely agree with that. To get totally sidetracked. That is such a
Yeah.
good. That is such a good. I'm so
Hey,
excited.
we accept tangents.
All right. I think a few years down the road, that's going to be crazy because you can just tell how much those players hate each other too every time they step on the field. So that's fun. But how much does Bolden have left in the tank? A year, 2 years. He's 33, but they don't need him to have a lot left in the tank. He's really just a bit player to push them over the edge. He doesn't even have to be the top receiver like he was in Baltimore. They have Crabtree.
true.
They just need him to
Vernon
come in
Davis,
there.
yeah.
Right. They just need him to come in there and be tough, consistent, competitive, and make everyone around him better. And that's what he does, and that's what he'll do.
Yeah, and it's really a pretty solid pickup for them, as far as I'm concerned. I
say
mean,
for a 6th round.
first,
pick,
yeah, exactly.
it's a steal. It's such a good deal.
Yeah. Moving on to something that may not have been a steal. Mike
Steve
Wallace,
Brady.
right? The 60-minute man, Mike Wallace, now known as the $60 million man, has taken his talents to South Beach. Didn't have quite the parade that LeBron and Bosch and Wade had, but hey, he signed a nice check
decision.
nonetheless. Yeah, that is the quiet decision.
From the couch at home.
Last question. I want to know, is Mike Wallace worth 5 years, $60 million? Kylie?
No. No. He was the best receiver, thought to be the best out there. And I like Miami's thinking. You have a young quarterback. It's a waste of time and money if you don't surround him with some weapons. So go get somebody. But I think they just got fooled by what was available to them. I mean, this is such a reach. He's fast, but he's not going to be a consistent player for them. I don't think it's
Exactly.
a phenomenal pickup by any means. I get the thought process, but they missed the mark.
For $60 million, that's totally not worth it. Like you said, he's inconsistent. He has the speed, the deep speed, and when the ball is perfectly placed, he can catch it. But the other hand, I think that Jeff Ireland finally is building the team correctly because for the longest time they weren't very safe on their receivers, on their running backs. He's trying to find talent,
Explosive guys.
talent finally, because their tight ends were lacking for so long. Their tight ends are still lacking, but at least the receivers are better. They lost Reggie Bush though, but they have Daniel Thomas in the backfield too, so they have playmakers finally, and that's what Tannehill needs to be a successful quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, you guys both kind of touched on it a little bit. He may be known as a little bit of a one-trick pony. Is he just he's just a deep guy? I mean, he's really not the guy that's going to go over the middle and stuff. But do you guys believe that they can contend for a playoff spot?
Maybe in a year or two, because I kind of feel like the Pats are kind of slipping down the hill. I think losing Welker will be a big deal, but Amendola is pretty good. I think Tannehill with more experience could be just as good as Tom Brady on his worst day. But
I mean,
little big there. But,
I don't know if Dolphin fans want to hear that.
no, there are no Dolphin fans, but Hartline is a great receiver. He's a very consistent, very solid receiver. So I think putting them together, I think kind of balances out in the end.
Yeah, maybe in a different division, but with the Pats sitting there, it's going to be tough. I do like the direction they're headed in. Exactly what you're saying. That's what you need to do to build a team is get those guys that can make something happen because that's how you win games. So I like what they're doing. Maybe in a few years, maybe if they were in a different division a little sooner, but I don't think right now.
Yeah, I mean, that concludes another episode of the Final Bell. I mean, we've talked about a lot. You know, free agent frenzy. You know, it's March. The madness is among us.
We kind of circled back
People,
too.
people are getting paid. Exactly. You know, we went from free agency, started with it, and we circled back to another receiver cashing in on a payday.
That's why you never venture out in free
I mean, we're still testing the waters. You know, we haven't.
I already struck a deal.
Oh, really?
I have my BlackBerry over here.
He's breaking news right here live. But with that said, for Kylie Wade, Corey Colbo, and everyone on The Final Bell, I'm Femi Bebefe. We'll see you next week on The Final Bell.